a national political party that has made it clear that minority political entrepreneurs need not apply. There's a national party that wants your vote but refuses to give you business. There's a national political party that loves to ridicule their opposition to the interests of African Americans, yet when the sheets are pulled back, this party is just as exclusionary, just as unwilling to admit it has a minority problem, and will love nothing more for blacks and other minorities to stay quiet and to continue with business as usual. Who am I talking about? The Republican Party. No, I'm talking about the Democratic Party. A stunning analysis released Wednesday by Power Pack, a Democratic fundraising firm, shows how the various wings of the Democratic Party have instituted a shameful and pathetic track record when it comes to using and paying minority political consultants. That's right. The party of the first black president, Barack Obama, spent $514 million in the 2010 and 2012 federal election cycles, and only 1.7%, yes, just $8.7 million went to minority firms. No, I didn't say black firms, all minority firms. And the party that champions itself as the most diverse, the most caring about minorities, spent less than 9 of more than $500 million with minority firms. What does this say to those of you watching and listening? Please, baby, please, vote for us, support us, save us, but we won't turn around and hire you. You've heard me take the Small Business Administration to task for the paltry percentage of loans going to black-owned small businesses. We've had Reverend Jesse Jackson Sr. on this show taking Silicon Valley to task for the lack of black folks on their corporate boards, for the few black workers working for these companies, and for the lack of businesses these companies do with black firms. Why does this matter? Why should you care? Because Democrats can't talk about income inequality, lack of access, and lack of capital, but not practice what they preach. Democrats can't dare take the high ground and assail the efforts of Republicans in reaching out to blacks when they reach their hands out for our votes, then backhand us when it comes to getting political consulting dollars. Why does this also matter? Because it shows again that we are treated like political sharecroppers, doing the heavy lifting in the streets, but not being able to access the dollars. Every Democrat should be ashamed of this study. They should be condemning one another for only 13 out of 284 contracts going to minority firms. Of those numbers, only 4 were more than $1 million. President Barack Obama, as the head of the Democratic Party, should call a summit of his fellow Democrats and literally ask what the hell is going on. The head of the Democratic National Committee, Debbie Wasserman Schultz, the head of the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee, the current leader Representative Steve Israel, and former leader Representative Chris Van Hollen, the Democratic Senatorial Campaign Committee, I'm talking about Senator Harry Reid, but also Michael Bennet of Colorado, should be apologizing to black folks and other minorities for this shameful record. But what is so sad is that they all have known about this for a long time. They have known, even in the world of political consulting, they know it's $1 million good old boy club. See, the guy on this campaign hires his buddy to consult, to do polling, to do opposition research, to do communications. Then they go into the next race, and the next race, and the next race. If the minority firms are treated like subcontractors, they always get the small dollars, the crumbs, largely the community outreach dollars, but never the prime contracts. So when you see these super duper political consultants running congressional, senatorial, and presidential campaigns, they're reaping millions of dollars even when they lose. They go on to do big business with political campaigns across the world. Then they sign on to do the six-figure corporate speeches and sign on as consultants to big business, building their firms into global firms. And in the process, they become multimillionaires. But what about the minority political consulting firms? They scrape by, jumping from small deal to small deal like a sharecropper, having to go from farm to farm just to make ends meet. This, folks, is the story of what it means to be black and minority in America. Here we stand, looking at a black man in the White House, and we're still having to beg, borrow, and plead for the door to be open. If we never get a shot, if we never get a chance, then how can we close the inequality gap? How can we talk about expanding the talent pool when we are being systematically ignored? Folks, there are a major number of African Americans and other minority political consultants who can run any campaign in the country, do all the major stuff, not just the minor stuff. Yet the good old boy and girl network says, without saying, this is a white thing, and will pretty much keep it that way. Oh, I know someone will say, Roland, you're calling white Democrats racist. No, What I'm saying is that these white Democrats are acting like their eyes and ears don't work. They're comfortable with who is in the room because it looks like them. How can Democrats loudly tout the diversity of their delegates at the convention but go silent about the millions going to political consultants? Black folks and other minority firms have kept this silent for years. They busted their butts in the trenches, not wanting to rock the boat. They fought for a few dollars here and there, hoping it all changes. Well, folks, enough. In the words of Fannie Lou Hamer of Mississippi, who stood in Atlantic City in 1964, protesting the white-only Mississippi delegation at the Democratic Party National Convention, I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. I'm sick and tired of having to beg, borrow, and plead for what is fair, what is well-earned, what is deserved. Democrats, you are on notice. I will call you out until this changes. I will kick your butt up and down this TV show, my radio show, my syndicated column, and on social media until this changes. I don't want to see a black polling firm get just the black portion. I want to see them get the main portion. I don't want to see a black-owned communications firm hired to do PR just for black folks. I want to see them as the main communications voice. This is 2014, and I'm not preaching patience. I'm not hearing that crap, just give us time. This, Democrats, is wrong. It is shameful. It is embarrassing. It is a disgrace. It should not be allowed to stand. To those Democrats in power, fix this and fix it now. Enough is enough. And $8.7 million bucks out of $514 million is nowhere in hell enough. You have been warned. Now you've heard what I had to say. Let's bring in, folks, the author of the study, founder and chair of Power Pack, Stephen Phillips. And Stephen, you guys broke this down, and it's a shame when you look at these numbers.
Yeah, a little shocking. I mean, we knew that people tend to turn to who they know and who they are comfortable with, and that there's these, and then they're facing an election every year, and so they're always trying to deal with what's in front of them, done at the time they make the institutional changes. But frankly, we didn't know the situation was this bad.
To continue our discussion, folks, we have the founder and chair of Power Pack, Stephen Phillips, associate editor of TheRoot.com, David Swertlick, and Rock Newman, host of The Rock Newman Show on WHUT. And I got to give it to you. You guys call this the Fannie Lou Hamer Report.
We wanted to put it in the context that, Fannie Lou Hamer and Mississippi Freedom Democratic Party raised these issues 50 years ago. And so we wanted to frame that this is not a new issue, that if we're going to embrace people of color as a way to actually build the majority, and we need to do that, and this is not the first time this has come up. We did want to have that historical resonance, particularly on the 50th anniversary.
Can y'all pull that pie chart up, please? I need people to see that again if you're watching. Folks, I need y'all to look at that. 98.3% of the money, of the $514 million going to these political consultants are non-minority. David Rock, Democrats, no Democrat can even remotely defend this.
No, and you called it out, Roland. If 40 to 45% of your voting base is black and brown, and only 1 to 2% of your consultants that are getting paid by the committees are black and brown, that's a problem right there, no question.
And Ron Brown was the chair of the Democratic National Committee. Reverend Jackson runs this is the 30th anniversary of Reverend Jackson's 1984 run. When he ran, he introduced people to the political process. Out of his run 30 years ago, we saw African Americans. Donald Brazile becomes campaign manager for Al Gore's campaign in 2000. We've seen black pollsters. I know Cornell Belcher, Ron Lester, other individuals who are in communications. We have I don't use this crap of qualified consultants because we never qualify white consultants. The reality is the capacity is there. They simply don't get the opportunity.
Roland, you pretty much said it all in your opening. This is something that we absolutely should be outraged about. And it is something that folks across the board who call themselves progressives should be embarrassed about. Martin Luther King talked about something called proportional economics. And I would suggest that when it comes to the kind of support that the Democratic Party gets from African American voters, we go straight to proportional economics. And if 40% of your vote is from African Americans, then set the bar high and give 40% of the business that way. That's called fairness.
Now, Stephen, to Rock's point, when you talk about this whole idea of progressives, I look at Silicon Valley. I look at who they support. Reverend Jackson's been calling them out. 2% black employees at Google. We know African Americans on the board of directors. When you look at the sort of the minority supplier development deals they do as well, virtually non-existent. This is symptomatic of what is an American problem, and that is you have African Americans out there. It's perfectly fine that you can work for us. Okay, you can be a staffer, but when it comes to owning your own business and building your own business and now getting those larger contracts, then all of a sudden, that's okay.
Right, yeah, this is not a situation that's isolated to the political spheres. Politics, economics, Silicon Valley, they all have the same challenges, but the good part is they also can have the similar solutions. How do you do contracting? How do you do outreach? Ways to actually bring in minority contractors. There are lessons from the past 40 years of affirmative action contracting that show how to do this in a way to actually make more progress.
And see, David, what really just chaps my hide is, all right, you spend crazy money on polling. There are African Americans who own polling firms, who do it very well. But what happens is they get brought into a campaign to only poll the minority voters, as opposed to say, no, wait a minute, that brother or that sister can actually be the chief pollster for the campaign.
Right, and it's incumbent upon the Democrats at this point to identify the next generation of, let's say, Cornell Belchers, because it's easy to get complacent if you're the in party to essentially say, okay, we've got this,
right.
This is our base, we're good, when in reality, as you pointed out, there's a network of campaign consultants who are tied in with these Democratic committees who get all the business, and then later on, as demographics shift, as issues shift, they're going to be behind the ball. Democrats just can't afford to be complacent on this issue. Maybe not this cycle, but you go a couple cycles down the road, and this is something that it's an economic issue, but it's also going to hurt them politically.
Well, the really thing what keeps jumping out at me, Rock, and why I'm so fired up and ticked off by this is because, again, we can extend this to so many different areas. And so here you have Democrats running around this place right here. Yeah. Trying to call out Republicans, call out Mitt Romney, call out Wall Street for income inequality, for not being able to help businesses and assist them, yet the actual Democratic Party, the DSCC, the DCCC, the DNC themselves are doing exactly what they're blasting somebody else, and they want to be silent about it. And here's the deal. We called all of them. They would not offer somebody to come on this show to talk about this here. And my deal is, I'm sorry, if you want to spend that money like that, have the guts to come talk about it.
You know what? The proof's in the pudding. You know, Michael Jackson's lyrics, they don't really give a damn about us, applies here. You know, there's no mystery. There is no science that one has to look at. Just look at these numbers. It is unfair. It is unconscionable that they've had the kind of support from the African American community and don't give back. You know, a very controversial figure on the scene in America, Elijah Muhammad, preached, do for yourself. If this is not something that tells all of us that we must do more in our own community to empower ourselves so that we can demand fairness, I don't know what does.
Stephen, here's the other broader piece, and I got about 45 seconds here. This is just DNC, DSCC, DCCC. Let's talk about the other progressive money out there. These super PACs, these other groups out there that are not your traditional, infrastructure groups. I would think it's probably going to look the same.
Yeah, when you have this kind of a situation where people look to who is known and the insider game, people tend to, once you get that contract, then the other entities look to you.
Right.
You're the pollster. So labor, state parties, the other parts of the progressive movement, the super PACs, all tend to rely on the same set of consultants.
So this was $514 million. We're actually talking about approaching $1 billion.
When you put all the other pieces in, it's probably close to that.
And it's a microcosm. It's a microcosm of a larger society.
Right.
You know, and so it's a problem across the board. As much as we have a sense that there is progress, when you see this kind of thing here, it's the same old thing happening again and again.
And David, final comment from you, and this is very simple. If the Democrats are going to practice this, well then who actually has any trust that you could actually discuss with legitimacy, income inequality, and access in somebody else's shop?
Absolutely, and if more people knew about this and this wasn't so much of a political story and it rippled out to what voters thought about Democrats, it would hurt them. And the DNC at least has a very diverse executive committee. This is incumbent upon them to really dig into this and not just kind of give it lip service while it's in the news. They've got to address it.
Jeff Johnson told me he was on a DNC panel about 2 years ago and he mentioned this very thing and he got shut down and shut up by folks in the room. Maybe they should have listened, right?
We need Roland Martin and NewsOne to keep on keeping on.
Oh, trust trust me, we're going to keep kicking they behind on this one. Rock Newman, David Swerve, I appreciate it, Stephen. Great report. Keep it up. And next thing, let's find out about those PACs, where their money is. And then, if they don't want to give up their data, that's going to be very telling as well.